Hi. Last week we were thinking about a phrase that I always associate with Steve DeShazer. The phrase, as long as it takes and not one session more. And today I wanted to just reflect on, to think about, the phrase that I most associate with Insoo Kim Berg, which is that we should aspire to leave no footprints in our clients' lives. I mean, clearly, whilst it's a great aspiration, actually it's not possible. As soon as we've met someone, we have left some footprints in someone's life. So I guess another way of putting it is that we should aspire for those footprints that we inevitably leave to be as light as possible in our clients' lives. And thinking about that, there are two obvious, very obvious reflections that come to mind. And the first is that if we're truly going to aspire to leave footprints that are as light as possible in people's lives, then we really do have to find out what people want. We really do have to ask people, so what are your best hopes? Or how will you know our work together has been useful? And the work really does have to center on, focus on the client's response to the best hopes or an outcome question of some sort. If we neglect to ask such a question, it becomes almost inevitable that the work will be focused on what we think that the client should focus on. The footprints are becoming deeper and deeper and deeper and heavier and heavier and heavier. Should we do that? So, best hopes, of course. And equally, we have to let go of any ideas at all of how people could or should, perhaps, resolve their problem. As soon, or build their preferred future, indeed. As soon as we start having ideas for people, it is so hard to resist the urge not to just edge people in that direction. And again, edging people in the direction of doing the things that we think they should do or could usefully do, inevitably, we're leaving footprints. So those are obvious. Look, the next two, well, yeah, they're fairly obvious too in many ways. I think we have to give up cheerleading. Oddly enough, I think somewhere Insoo Kim Berg does write about cheerleading. But I see cheerleading as really not fitting with the aspiration to leave no footprints. As soon as we cheerlead, the risk is that we're responding to the reported changes that the client's made. As soon as we start cheerleading, the risk is that we're attaching our evaluation to the client's actions. And certainly at Brief, I think we work very hard to center the client's evaluation. So if the client were to say, yesterday I got the children to bed on time, I would wish to try and remember to start by asking, and were you pleased with that? Asking that question centers the client's evaluation, rather than me leaping up and down with enthusiasm, saying how great and how wonderful that's been. Sometimes asking, were you pleased with that, actually doesn't quite work. And probably works better to say something like, it sounds like you are pleased with that, because it does. So we're just checking out. So best hopes, no solutions, no cheerleading. And I think that if we're going to take another step in increasing our invisibility in the process, if you want to put it that way, something else that I think is useful as a discipline is to build each question in a way that takes account of the client's last answer. So the client says, I guess I'd be happier. And we ask, so how could you know that you were happier? And the client says, I'd have more energy. And we respond by saying, so what's the very first thing you might notice yourself doing differently if you were happier and had more energy? And the client says, well, maybe I'd go for a run. And we respond by, so what might you notice about yourself as you step out of your house on your way to your run on a happier and more energy day? So our questions continuously build on and take account of the client's answers. As we take account of our client in this way, the client is centralized and the footprints can be slightly less deep.